Going, it's Faisal here with another review. So today's video is a review of the movie Oppenheimer, the new movie that's in theaters right now. It's about Robert Oppenheimer, the father or creator of the hydrogen bomb, and it's basically based on his true story or his life story, and like what happened towards its creation and even afterwards, and like what he had to deal with throughout all of his inventions and how it got used. Yeah, so just like a brief thing. Usually I do One Piece reviews. It's an anime manga. That's like my favorite manga. But I'm also gonna be doing some like movie reviews that I really like movies that I really like. So Oppenheimer is one such movie. So without further ado, let's go on to this movie review. And one quote here, that's my best quote from the movie. So it says like, in order to save the world, you must destroy it first. So like it kind of like showcases like the dilemma Oppenheimer had in creating the H bomb and how it was used, perhaps like against his own will, in World War II. So yeah, let's get on with it. So the first thing we're gonna talk about is like the start of the movie, like what happens at like the beginning stages. So in the beginning stages, a young Robert Oppenheimer goes around the world, learning in like Europe and other countries about quantum physics. So yeah, basically quantum physics I know nothing about. A lot of people know nothing about, and in this time around after World War I, but before World War II, or around that period, they were researching quantum physics. So like you either know it or you don't, and and over here like no one really knew about it, but they're like starting to know about it. So Oppenheimer got this idea, I mean, learned about quantum physics, and he's like, oh, this is so cool. um, you can do a lot with this, or like experience it explains the world within our world. So he just learned a lot from wherever he can, and he took all this knowledge, and then he just consolidated it, and his new passion, he's a theoretical physicist, so he has ideas, he has stuff that he wants to test out, and this is like the new field that he entered from his young learnings from like prestigious universities. So next up we have Oppenheimer coming back to America because he's American, um, with his knowledge of quantum physics. So he comes back and no one knows about quantum physics. He gets like a post at some university. Sorry, I don't remember the nitty gritty details, but it's some American university, maybe Princeton or something, but don't quote me. But yeah, so he comes back. He gets some post at a university. It's beside like I think an electron accelerating lab. So that's like the more experimental part of it, and he's like the more theoretical part. But yeah, at first he had one student. He's like a prof. He wants to teach quantum physics and expand the exposure of quantum physics in America. And soon afterwards, like it showed like how he teaches quantum physics. He shows how it relates to stars and black holes and dark energy, dark matter, and how it relates to stars collapsing and emitting our or like stars collapsing, and then from that like black holes occurring and whatnot. So he gets a lot of like traction, a lot of students, a lot of hype, a lot of like coverage, and he becomes like a leading researcher for quantum physics in America. And then, so he's like a big shot in quantum physics. And then comes the crux of the material. To be honest, like the first two parts, I was a little bit confused because like they were like really heavy on like discoveries and theories and like new new stuff that they were finding out. And based on the new findings, I have to go back to the last slide. So yeah, so the the electron accelerator thing in the lab next to Oppenheimer's teaching class, they finally got electron or like a nucleus to split. Um, it was believed to be impossible by the math, but like the accelerator split a nucleus or an electron Okay, sorry, I'm not like a super savvy physicist or anything like that. I'm like a business major. But yeah, so they split an electron or a nucleus or a neutron or an atom or a particle, and then that like ushered in the era of perhaps using that technology to maybe create, like you should use it for a better purpose, but in this time like World War II was approaching, so to maybe create like nuclear weapons. So that being said, hydrogen bomb was first raised by a student or like a colleague of Oppenheimer. He's like, oh, why don't we crush or like disseminate or like make hydrogen particles as small as it can get until it explodes, and then or like I think some isotope of hydrogen, like I'm not even gonna try to name it, but yeah. And then Oppenheimer's like, how are you gonna like get to the stage where it explodes? And then that's when like the real crux of the material came to create the hydrogen bomb. And his colleague had the idea, but like he's like, oh, I don't know. But yeah, so like Oppenheimer worked on this, and then he's like the pioneer. Um, as I said before, the pioneer quantum physicist in America. America is in war now. It's like so like it's been a while, and now it's World War II, and Germany and Japan are obviously fighting the Allied forces in World War II, and they need to create something to like win the war, or at least scare them, or at least have like a backup to get an edge in the war. So Oppenheimer's working on the hydrogen bomb. It's like um, and then he manages to like obviously get through the physics of it and and have it working, have it ready, and then in like a meeting before it has to be finalized, there's like big shots from US, and they're like asking Oppenheimer if it can be possible, or like where should we test our bomb. So it was kind of cool to see like what people in power, like how they talk or how they go about winning or like gaining control or having control of a situation, because right now war is happening, they have to win at all costs, right? So here they are trying to build something that's going to kill people just to keep their power or maintain their power or just to win. Or I know it's more complicated than that, but like in essence you have a conflict and you're going to do anything you can to win. So this hydrogen bomb is a product of that war, and they're saying like, oh, where should we drop this? And then Oppenheimer and everyone is just like, oh, and then they agreed like they tested it on Mexico, and then it worked, and everybody's celebrating. But like Oppenheimer is in his head, he's acting like he's happy, but he has obviously like PTSD or flashbacks or some kind of like mental dissociation about like what he's creating and what it's doing. Like he's just a theoretical physicist, and his work is leading up to being used against enemies of America, and it doesn't matter if he wants it or not, it's going to be used that way. So they use it on uh, Mexico, some, and then they use it on Hiroshima, and then Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and that's how the war ends. And their main crux of their main justification is that if they don't use it, Japan's not going to surrender, and by dropping this bomb, the casualties will be less, because if the war continues, more people are gonna die. But this bomb will keep it to a minimum casualty, or like as minimum as it can. It's not really minimum because this hydrogen bomb is a hydrogen bomb, like the biggest bomb. But yeah, but like they thought it would be better to keep the casualties like less by dropping this bomb, or like I shouldn't say the word less. Keep it as less as it can be, and then the war would stop. Less American lives would be um, wasted, for a lack of a better term. But yeah, so that's their main rationale, that they wanted to end the fight and Japan would not surrender, even at the threat of a hydrogen bomb. They had to show the world to make them like retreat and say we surrender. And another reason why they did end up doing the hydrogen bomb is because they believe like maybe Russia had a spy. Like the war wasn't with Russia, but like US and Russia always have a thing, right? So they believe that Russia has a spy and they're building a hydrogen bomb too. So if they have to build one too because Russia is gonna build one, then like they weren't confirmed on the spy, but they were pretty like sure, or like they were saying like what if there's a spy. So those two reasons, there's like a spy, they gotta keep up with Russia. Maybe Russia got like um, intel from America and they gotta like keep up with them. And like Japan won't surrender, so they did put this bomb and then they surrendered. And everybody's celebrating, but Oppenheimer is obviously going through it like mentally, like really hard. He has like PTSD. He's saying one thing like, "Yeah, I bet the Japanese didn't like this." Sorry, this wasn't supposed to happen. He's saying one thing like, I bet the Japanese didn't like it, but in his head, he's thinking about all the people screaming, crying, and like that kind of like contrast was really coolly laid out in the movie. And then we come to the last stage. It's when Oppenheimer is, how do I even say this? He's put in trial, like a pseudo trial, by one of his former colleagues. Um, it's actually Robert Downey Jr.'s character. He's also in the movie, Robert Downey Jr. But his character offered him a position at some university, and then he backstabbed him because um, he was like a cabinet minister, and he deals with like US's military strategy and whatnot. And Oppenheimer got, through his success in creating the hydrogen bomb, he had a say in the country's military strategy as well. So then Oppenheimer saw what the bomb did, and he wanted to um, halt further manufacturing of such bombs, or like even greater bombs, because he didn't want this to usher a nuclear era, which it kind of did in the Cold War, so after the World War II. But yeah, he wanted to stop his creations from doing like even more harm. And obviously, but Robert Downey Jr.'s character, I forget his name in the movie, but he had like other ideas. Like he was trying to like get uranium for like more bombs, and in the movie. And Oppenheimer, he called him out, and he just said something in front of everyone, and then they canceled the uranium haul. But yeah, so he had like a vendetta against Oppenheimer. He set up a trial, or a fake pseudo trial. It's not even a trial. They called it like, I don't even know what they called it, but it's like it's designed against Oppenheimer. But yeah, and they kind of accused Oppenheimer. They didn't kind of. They accused Oppenheimer of being a communist and being a spy for Russia, because he had some light ties to some communist parties before. And then they kind of stretched that to like, oh, that means you also believe in Russia's communism practices or like ideologies, and you're a Russian spy. And then throughout, like they kind of like took pieces of his lives, like, oh, you were with like a Russian woman, or like you were with a communist woman before, and blah blah. Your wife was a communist party member like 20 years ago. That's why like you're a spy and all that. But throughout all this, and there's this I think Sami, or something Malik. I forget his name. I shouldn't. But like he's in Mr. Robot, like the main character from Mr. Robot. I think Sami Malik. I think. But his character, he vouched for. He just spoke the truth, and he said Robert Downey Jr.'s character set up this trial and put him under the bus like Oppenheimer, when Oppenheimer's just trying to do what's right by his creation, trying to undo the mess he has done, and trying to mitigate further um catastrophic events that could follow if they usher into like a nuclear era based on what he has started. So in the end, like the trial, like it was designed against Oppenheimer, but he still kind of um, won in a sense. He he goes to show that he's actually innocent and he's not a spy, but they took out his clearance, so he's not like, he doesn't have a say in like any of US's uh, military strategy or anything. And Robert Downey Jr.'s character, he also got out of the cabinet. So both kind of lost something, but I think Robert Downey Jr. lost more because he's like, he wanted to call the shots, and he was like really jealous of Oppenheimer, and like all like all the scientists sided against Oppenheimer too, and he's like, oh, they just want to like make me look bad and whatnot. But yeah, another cool thing. So the trial ended, and both of them lost their security clearances to have a say in U.S.'s military strategy. And Oppenheimer, but at least Oppenheimer was like, uh, they said that he's not like a spy, so he got what he wanted. But it's like it's kind of like cool to see like what people in power will kind of like twist the narrative and like kind of put back what you do against you. Like he's just a theoretical physicist and he didn't know how his work was going to be used, and they kind of just twisted that and said like you created it for our enemy. Oh, I don't know why this keeps happening. But yeah, so that was cool to see. And there another really cool thing to see was Isaac Newton. Oh no, sorry, that's not the one. Albert Einstein. Yeah, Albert Einstein was in the movie, but he's more of like retired and older now. But Oppenheimer still sometimes goes to him for advice, and she showed him like the math behind the hydrogen bomb and like how many like reactions it will create. And he said, "Is this gonna kill? Is this gonna destroy the world?" And then Newton's like, "It could." Sorry, I keep saying Newton. Albert Einstein said it could, but it's up to you. Uh, or like this is your work now. You get the final say. I'm out of the front lines now. It was really cool to see Albert Einstein's and Oppenheimer's dynamic as maybe like a mentor mentee a little bit, and kind of like just two really great brilliant minds just like working together. And in the end, there's like a talk between Albert Einstein and Oppenheimer that says that like they're kind of describing the life of a scientist, and before it, like when Oppenheimer became old, they congratulated him. They gave him a medal. They gave him like well, like they gave him positions in the government or whatnot, or like they basically had a huge party for his accomplishments. But what they don't tell you, like Albert Einstein was saying this to Oppenheimer, what they don't tell you is that before you're before you achieve glory, or they put you under so much things until you kind of achieve that, like the backbiting or the accusations, or when all is done and rested and everything is clear, that's when they finally reward you. And the movie ends with Oppenheimer saying like, I may have destroyed the world, because like the Cold War was booming and whatnot. But all I can say is that I'm glad that that didn't destroy the world, and hopefully we keep it chill with all this nuclear energy and not use it. But yeah, the last thing I do usually in my reviews is a rating. So this is a 9 out of 10. I really liked it, and I would just put -1 because some parts of the physics or like the early moments I was kind of a little bit lost. But most of the time it was really great, and it was just really cool to see how um, one man's work can be put against him and put to use against his will, and how situations and scenarios can come up, all the politics and how it can backbite someone, and how someone finally achieves like status and like glory, but like you never know what they had to go through to get to that point. But yeah, that's all for this review. Thank you so much for watching, listening, and I'll catch you guys next time.